Hello guys, Nate Bailey here with Barebow Hunters and Barebow Hunters Podcast, and I'm making this video series for those of you getting into the sport. There's a lot of guys coming into barebow hunting, and I really want to make this video more for the guys that are going to pick these up and hunt with them. You know, the 3D shoots and all that stuff's fun, and it's great practice for hunting. But if you came to the channel and you're looking for a guy that's going to teach you how to shoot 50 yards and be able to punch foam at 50 yards, I'm not that guy. My emphasis here is teaching you how to hunt with a bare bow, okay? There's nothing new here. Let me stress, there's nothing new here. This has been done for thousands of years, and it's been handed down for thousands of years, and that's my intention here. I've been doing this since I was 16. I'm 47 now, and so it's been a lifelong process for me to get to where I am today. Also, there's been a ton of people that have helped me out, and I'm going to get some of them in this too, but there's been a ton of people that helped me out throughout the years to learn how to hunt with this thing and be proficient with it, okay? So we're going to go over equipment, we're going to go over tactics. Tactics are a huge deal when you're talking about bare bows, you know. We're going to go over all these kind of things that lead into being able to hunt with this thing. So being able to leave it up to your supernatural self. It is a spiritual act to hunt with these without sights and without the mechanics. How to set up your equipment. I'm going to go over completely every video on how to set up the equipment. I'm going to go over all sorts of different things, like philosophies, because when you enter the woods, you're going to have a certain philosophy. Even if you don't have a philosophy about what you're doing when you enter the woods, that's a philosophy in itself. So I'm going to go over some of that, why you're out there doing what you're doing, how you're out there doing what you're doing. These are all important things in how we hunt with this thing. For instance, you know, if you don't believe that you're going to kill anything with this, you could probably, for one, just shut it off right now. Don't watch anymore, because if you don't, that is probably the key. That is the key with being a proficient barebow or traditional bow hunter. So, you know, that's in the philosophy section. Another thing is, if you're looking at getting into barebows and you want to be super precise, I mean, precision is part of archery, of course. But there's also something in traditional archery that allows for some of the draws and some of your releases and some of that kind of stuff can't be completely perfect. That's why a lot of guys go to the compounds and they add to those that perfection side of things. So I talk a little bit about that. I talk a lot about hunting tactics. We will go over, because I like to hunt. Some guys are archers, some guys are hunters. I'll tell you right now, I'm a hunter first, an archer second. I love hunting with the barebow. I love hunting with traditional archery, but I do it because I think it offers me some kind of an advantage. Just a short history on me. I started bow hunting when I was around 16. I picked up a recurve. I got a recurve. My brother-in-law and I would hang tree stands, and we'd shoot jackrabbits out of tree stands, and that's how I got into traditional bow hunting. My uncles were always in the woods during you know, late September, early October, bugling elk. They never hunted them with archery gear. They just loved calling them in. We'd call elk in, and we loved doing that. So I eventually started going, wait a second, I've been calling all these elk in, and some of them were getting, and of course we went out. The big thing that we did is we went out to make sure to get elk as close as we could, and that's the whole lure of bow hunting, right? Is to get as close as you can to the animal. If you see Gunner running around back here, don't bother. He's got to come on these adventures with me. But anyhow, so I started putting two to two together. Here I am shooting jackrabbits out of a tree stand with a recurve, and we're calling in, hey Gunner, go somewhere else. And we're calling in elk to within steps. It's just natural I would turn to bow hunting. So that's what really got me into bow hunting. And then there was this one guy, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of him. His name is Larry D. Jones. Anyhow, he put out a video, and that video was absolutely amazing. And he shot a recurve in it, so I started believing that I could actually kill one with a recurve. Everybody else around me was like, oh, why aren't you shooting something with wheels on it? And you know, the compound, it lets it off. You could shoot a 70-pound bow instead of a 50-pound bow. and all those things, you know. And so I fell into that, and I ended up getting a little Browning timber or something or other. Anyhow, it was a cool little had recurved limbs, and you know the wood riser, and I thought, oh man, I'm in hog heaven here. So put a sight on it. Back then they just started getting peeps. I put a peep on it. I couldn't see through the peeps when I get close. I was missing jackrabbits with it because I couldn't see the peep. So I took the peep off and just used the sights from an anchor. Started doing that. Drew my tag, or I didn't have to draw. Back then it was over the counter. Nobody bow hunted back then. The success rates were down. You didn't have a lot of the draws that we have now. So I started doing that, and I was hunting over in Eastern Oregon, and I called in several animals, and I missed them. And I shot under, I shot over, and I could not ever pick. Back in those days, compound bows nowadays, with all the shots, I probably could have used one pin. But back then, things were different. The arrows arced more. And so I was missing, man, and I thought to myself, what are you doing? Why do you have all this stuff? And then everything started. So I'd go back to camp, and I'd shoot the bow, and I'd pace it off, and I'd get to the places where I could shoot, 20 paces was the first pin, and 30 paces was the second pin. And then I get to 40 paces, and I call that good, and I had 3 pins. And so, and I'd just be nailing the target every shot, back at camp. And then I go back out, and sure enough, I couldn't, for the life of me, figure out what the yardages were. There's no such thing as rangefinders back in those days. Closest thing we had was this little plastic deal that you look through, and if the deer fit within a certain line, then that's how far that deer was. I never did get one, but I kind of, that was our rangefinder back in those days. So I kept doing this, and finally one day my bow was in the back of my Jeep. I had an orange Cherokee at the time, and it was in the back of the Jeep, and I pulled it out, and something had happened and banged around in there, and all those sights were going chink, 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 chink. So I just, what I did is I pulled the sight completely off the bow and then just started shooting it with fingers without sights, and it was a compound bow. And then I started thinking to myself, I don't know, have you guys shot compound bows without, and this was a short little guy, just with sights and stuff. Well, I started thinking, why in the world am I limiting myself? Because back in those days, you couldn't cant your bow at all. You can't cant a compound bow. You'd knock, as it was going forward, you'd knock the cables off of the cams, and so you had to limit yourself to what you can do. I hear guys now, and I don't know a whole lot about, forgive me here, I don't know a whole lot about compounds, but I hear guys now, they have to check their bubble, check this before they shoot, and I thought to myself, and that's all the same kind of stuff, and I thought to myself, why am I limiting myself in that? Most of my shots are under 25 yards when I'm bow hunting. I mean, that's the reason I got into it, right? If I want to shoot over 25, 30 yards, I'm going to pick up a rifle or even a muzzle loader. But I got into bow hunting so I could call elk in close. And so I was like, why in the world am I limit myself if I get in and I have to come around a tree limb? Because I could hide behind a tree and still shoot really canted and hold my form. Why am I limiting myself by having a compound bow? And so I got right back into traditional archery, never looked back, okay? So that's a little bit on me. Next video, I'm going to tell you a little bit of why we should think about shooting with the traditional archery. Why should you get into this? Why shouldn't you just use a compound bow? So check out the next video when it comes up. Now, if you guys like what you see here, there should be a subscribe button somewhere down in here. I don't know quite where I put it on the video, so either look here or here. There'll be a subscribe button, and also run over. Leave me some likes and some comments down in the comments section. Leave me what you would like to see throughout the series. That'd be great. I would be more than happy. And if I don't know, I know people that do know. See, that's the big thing. I know guys that've been into this stuff for 50 years. And then they were taught by guys that have been into it for 50 years. And they were taught by guys right underneath Pope and Young and those guys. So, you guys, we have a bunch of information we can pass on here. And these guys are willing to give it to us. A couple more things. I couldn't be doing this out here if it wasn't for our public lands. That is a huge deal. I'm sitting right now on a BLM piece of land. So, get a part of conservation groups that are keeping this to where we can get on it, okay? Another thing is, get a hold of these guys. There's a professional bow hunter society. Those guys are all about mentorship. It's knowledge through experience, and they want to pass on their experience to the younger guys, to the generation coming up. Get a hold of those guys. If you're getting into this, the best thing you could do, sitting and watching videos will get you started, but the best thing you could do is go out and shoot with one of these guys in PBS. Let them show you some arrow setups. Let them show you all this stuff. Let you see the difference between your shooting styles. All these things that we're going to go over in these videos, they'll do it hands-on, and you can't beat hands-on. You can't beat a mentor. So PBS, Compton's Bow Hunters, all those guys, you guys, go over to those groups. If you're getting into this, you need to be a part of that, okay? So go over there. Go into Barebow Hunters group on Facebook. Check us out on Instagram, and please subscribe, leave comments, and I'm going to get some cool stuff out to you guys. All right, we'll hit the next video.